Okay, so I hope everyone can hear me nice and fine, right? Okay, so let us start with today's class. I hope everyone can hear me nice and fine. Now, as I have already completed paper 1, right? I have explained all the subtopics of paper 1, right? From today I will be starting with paper 2, right? So I will be starting with first with the criminal law, right? And then I will be going to the law of tort, etc., etc., right? So the purpose is that let me finish criminal law, right? So that you will be able to study the criminal law in the next 1.5 months, right? And then I will start with the tort. Okay, so that is how I have told you that I will finish all the syllabus, then I will finish all the syllabus, right? So I was little bit for the last 1 month I was making the test series for the next batch, right? So that is why I was quite busy, so I had some free time, so I thought that before prelims I can at least finish one subject, that is your criminal law. Okay, so I will finish criminal law, right, in the next 6-7 classes, right? And then I will be talking about, again I will take a break of 1 month, and then I will be talking about law of tort. Okay, so that is how the whole course will function. Now if you look at this course structure, right, then what I do, those who are for the first time is here, right, for them specifically this whole course functions in a way that I explain you some of the topics, right, 2 topics to be precise, right, and then I ask you to write 1 question, right, few of them submit me, and then I evaluate and give the feedback to you. Okay, so that is how the whole course will function. Okay, so let us start with today's class, right, and let us see the whole what are the topic that need to be discussed. Okay, now if you look at today's topic, right, we have topic 1 and topic 2, right? So topic 1 is the general principle of criminal liability, mens rea and actus reus. Okay, and topic 2 is the kind of punishment, emerging trend as to the abolition of capital punishment, right? So this word has to be focused, abolition of capital punishment. Okay, so that is the emerging trend that we are talking about, right, abolition of the capital punishment. Now what is the subtopic that need to be studied from these 2 topics, right? So at least 1 question you can expect from these 2. Okay, so let me explain that to you, right? Now if you look at the first subtopic is that the meaning of criminal liability, right? Now you have to understand the meaning in the sense of common law, right, that why the criminal liability arises. Okay, so there is a very important principle, right, that I will talk about in notes as well, right? That principle has to be studied in a very good way, right? And then why does it arise, right? Why do we need to punish an individual, right? So the assumption in the common law is that if you do a harm against an individual, somehow it will do a harm against the whole society, right? So basically you are trying to protect society from that particular individual, right? So that is the primary rationale that you try to punish a deviant behavior. Then you will have to compare it from the tort. There have been a direct question, right, that how does the criminal liability and the tortious liability differs. Okay, so you have to talk about the difference between that 2. Okay, so you read that. Now in any standard textbook, right, you will find in the beginning part of all that standard textbook. Okay, so more than that is not required. Okay, more than that is not required. Understand that particular point. Then if you will go to the second thing that you have to study is the element of criminal liability, a very famous one, you must be knowing, right, that is your mens rea and actus reus, very famous, right? You have to go into in detail of these 2, right? What is the meaning of mens rea, what is the meaning of actus reus, right? And then specifically you have to try to understand that where does this mens rea is shown in our IPC. So IPC actually uses multiple words to indicate mens rea, right? Dishonestly, fraudulently, understand that particular by motive, intention, right? So these all are the words which primarily indicates mens rea. There is a mental element, right? Now the question is that how do you define these words. Okay, so there are sometimes questions they ask you difference between motive, right, and motive and intention, or difference between fraudulently and dishonestly, right? So it means all of these words in our IPC primarily indicates an attempt to describe mens rea, right? That is an attempt to describe mens rea, right? So I will ask you to go through that in this. And you might be hearing some construction activity that is going on, right? I cannot stop it, right? I have closed the door, but still that sound is coming, right? So you will have to bear it with me, right? So there is no other option. Okay, then you will go around the concept of mens rea, right? Like what are the various scenario in which it have been waived. In the notes also I have given what are the various scenario it have been waived. Like one of the example that is there here itself, right, that is in the case of a statutory offense it have been waived, right. Now the question arises that why does it so, right. So in the case of statutory offenses, right, it is strict liability offense, right. Now here the public policy dictates, right, that the larger interest of the society will be served if a person is punished, right, rather than on the technicalities of law they are not punished, right, or they are declared innocent. Now if you remember, the same problem arises in the case of terrorism as well, right. So terrorism is also a strict liability offense, right. Yesterday I was reading somewhere that in Uttar Pradesh the strict liability offense, that is your UAPA, right, you must have seen, NSA actually, you must have seen, out of 100% of cases, I think 56 or 57% cases involved cow killing, right. So killing of cow somehow affects national security. That is something very remarkable if you think about it, right. So that is something very remarkable. The killing of cow somehow affects national security. So that is something really remarkable. Then you have to write the criticism that if mens rea is waived, some of the classical jurists say that this is a wrong thing to do, right. Mens rea should never be waived, okay. So waiving of mens rea actually is a bad thing, right. So in fact, M.H. George case, right, Justice Subbarao, in the monetary opinion, he also talked about that waiving of mens rea is not correct, okay. So that argument specifically have to read, okay, because there was a question specifically asked that what were the argument Justice Subbarao made in the M.H. George case, right. So that particular point has to be studied very importantly. Then you will come to the crime itself, right, punishment itself. Now that is the second subtopic. Then you will talk about different theories of punishment. You must have some retributive theory, etc., etc. Multiple theories are there, right. But you will try to criticize, study criticism of those theory, and the best way to study criticism is basically see some of the jurist definition, that why jurists have criticized it. Okay, so that jurist definition has to be understood in a good way, right. So that is actually important, right. So you have to take that into account, jurist definition. Then how one is better than another, okay, it means you have to do a comparative study between one another, right, how one is better than another. So that is very important actually, right, that is very important. So you need to understand that. Then you will come to the capital punishment, right. Now in the capital punishment, obviously the best doctrine, the most important doctrine is the rarest of rare, not rare, sorry, the rarest of rare doctrine, right. So you have to understand, the meaning of the rarest of rare doctrine. You must have a still the mitigating circumstances, right, and you have to compare with those, both the circumstances, right, and ultimately if one circumstances weighs over another, right, then you will give the capital punishment, right. Then you will go into that how it is very subjective, right, Bachchan Singh and thereafter Machi Singh, right. So how it is more subjective, that you will write down, right, that you will study in the case of, right, capital punishment. Then you will talk about argument against and in the favor of it, right. Simply again jurist arguments, right. You might try to have your own argument, right, but I will suggest to have a jurist argument, right, so that will make a better answer in your UPSC, okay. Then moral argument has to be made, like there was a question, if you remember, an eye for an eye will make the whole world blind, Mahatma Gandhi, right, discuss in the light of capital punishment regime in India, right. So that is a sort of a moral argument that you have to give, right. So again that moral argument has to come from the theories of crime actually, right. Theories of punishment have a roots in theory of crime, right. So what is the crime? So crime is a social wrong, crime is a moral wrong, or crime is an economic wrong, right. So there are multiple theories related to crime as well, right. So from that you have to derive the argument, right, and you have to be be very comprehensive, meaning you have to if a question comes, the philosophical question of capital punishment, you should be you should be able to write down with a distinct heading, multiple viewpoint attached to it, okay. So do not concentrate yourself into the one heading only, right. So you should be able to write down distinguished heading. So that is one thing you should keep in mind. Then recent trend in the punishment, right, not only capital punishment but normal punishment as well, right. And there a very important point has happened is basically the criminal law has become to the victim centric rather than the criminal centric, right. So right now the whole design of criminal law is that you have a criminal, you give them fundamental rights, etc., etc., so that that criminal right cannot be violated. But what about the victim, right? So the whole jurisprudence is today criminal centric. Right now it is shifting towards victim centric, right? So you will read how, right? Specifically there is nowadays compensation that is being awarded by the court a lot, right? A lot of compensation is being awarded. You must have seen, right, in this Gujarat riot case also, that Saira Bano or whatever her name was, she was also awarded compensation, right. So that the recent shift that the syllabus is talking about, right. So that is the recent shift right, that the syllabus is talking about. Okay, so very comprehensive. These two topics, studying will take you at least 3 days to study. Okay, so try to, I mean 6-7 hours it will take you, right, for 2 days, 3 days, right. So then only you will be able to complete it by yourself. Okay, so try to read it accordingly. Now let us come to some of the concept that I gave, right. The first concept that I have given is the definition, right, justification of the criminal law. Now this is by the Professor Wessler. Now this particular definition is very interesting one, and it I mean you can quote it verbatim in any philosophical question related to criminal law, right. This penal, that is a criminal law, on which the men place their ultimate reliance for protection against all deepest injuries that a human conduct can inflict on individual and institutions, right. So criminal law protects, it is talking about human security as well as the social security, right. So as a society, criminal law protects you, and as an individual, you are protected against the deepest injury that may be inflicted upon you, right, from another human being, obviously. Then by the same token, criminal law governs the strongest force that we permit official agencies to bring bear on individuals, right. So it is talking about physical strongest force, so that is allowed only in the case of criminal law, right, like killing someone, right. So in the case of economic offences, other offences, right, the state is not empowered to use the brutest possible force, not at all, right. But in the only criminal law, that is the only branch of law that we allow a state to have a very brutest use of force, right. So that is something very remarkable about criminal law, right. So two things, right. So that is a very good definition. Then various theories of crime, I am not going into detail, but I have just given a note so that you can study more about themselves. Social wrong theory, group conflict theory, right. Group conflict is that there are in a society there are multiple people, right. So each group of people have their own interest, right. So suppose group A try to violate the interest of group B, it resists, and it resists in the sense of criminal force, right, and that lead rise to crime. Understand, right. So that is a group conflict theory, and that is, I suppose, is a very aptly suited theory, right. So ultimately, right, whatever law you make ultimately is to protect the interest of a particular group. Okay, now this is the actus non facet reum nisi mens sit mens rea. That is actually I was talking about. It is a very important principle of criminal law. From it actually it derives, there are two essential elements. Now there are other ingredients also, you must have seen, right, but these are the two major ingredients. Okay, so we'll focus yourself only to this, because question actually comes only with respect to this itself. We will see the previous year question as well. Then actus rea, what does it define, right? So the definition, right, the human conduct, act and omission, both thing, and mens rea is the aim behind that particular conduct, right, why you want to do particular conduct, right. Now again I have already told you the mens rea word have been defined in our IPC in multiple words, I mean have been defined by using multiple words, right, have been indicated, not exactly defined, have been indicated by using multiple words in IPC, right. What are those indication, right? So dishonestly, fraudulently, right, negligence, right. So negligence is also one of the indication of mens rea, right. You were not applying your mind fully, but still some mind was there, understand, right. Then that is why the very good definition is there, that it is a loose term for elastic significance and covers a wide range of mental stress states and condition, right, wide range, right? Dishonestly, fraudulently, motive, intention, wide range. Okay, then three element, the physical doing of the act, the circumstances actually indicates a lot of thing about mens rea, right. For an example, if someone say that I was mad, I mean I was medically insane, and he beated a person up and he died. Now when he was beating a person up with a rock, suppose, right, after some time, once the person was dead, he flew away, right. So why did he flew away? Because he realized that he had done something wrong. It means he was totally aware of the consequence of his act, right. So subsequent circumstances, that what you do afterwards, becomes a very, very relevant consideration in determining mens rea, right. That is why the mens rea should be present not while doing the physical act, but also the circumstances that surrounds that particular act. Okay, and then the consequence, right. Obviously, the person is dead, you realize that the person is dead, and then you got frightened. It means that while doing that particular act, you were aware of it, right. So mens rea has to be present of these, right. So if you keep beating on a person, even if the person is dead, you did not realize that he is dead, or you did not, your mens rea was absent, right. You was told you are practically insane, you did not knew that the person is dead. It means that really the mens rea was absent. Otherwise, if you realized in the consequence that mens rea is present, okay, then the mens rea has to be present in all the three cases, right. One cases, obviously it is not accepted. Right. I will take questions once, let me first finish with all, then I will take questions. Okay, then I have given you a very simple difference between guilty mind, mens rea and motive, right? So have a read about it, the whole paragraph. I'm not going to read it. I will supply you with this PDF, not to worry. Then where the mens rea is not essential, right? Now in our IPC there are some of the sections where actually it is provided the mens rea is not essential at all. Okay, and apart from it, there are economic offences where the mens rea is not required, right? It have been waived, right? Now if you look at why this mens rea have been waived, right? So the purpose is that a person cannot do something. I mean, the whole principle of mens rea is based on the fact that a human being is not born criminal, right? So if he becomes criminal, then it means that he have done something, the society have made him criminal, right? So it means that the society should also bear some consequence of it, right? Now if you look at the mens rea requirement, one another thing that comes into picture is that when we talk about mens rea is that in the case of mens rea, a person suppose is there and he is doing some crime, right? Then he is so unaware or he is so indifferent of the consequences that he did not even bother to thought about the consequences. So even though he had no mens rea, but still there was an evilness in him, right? So that is the primary argument through which the jurists say that okay, mens rea in some cases can be dispensed with, right? Like I start selling adulterated milk. I did not wanted to kill someone, right? But I know that will kill someone, and I am so bad that I am indifferent that who will get killed, right? So in fact, in some sense, you are more criminal than the ordinary criminal, because in the ordinary criminal, he knows that okay, I am going to kill guy A, but you are so indifferent that you don't even bother that who gets killed, right? So it means the strict liability offences, right, are those offences where you are trying to punish an evil mind which is so evil, which is unbothered about the consequences. He know about the consequences, but he is not bothered at all, right? So his evilness is of the highest quality, right? His evilness is of highest quality. Okay, so that particular argument that you can give having for strict liability offense, right? Now this MS George case, very important case, you must be knowing. A person was coming up with a gold in India, and while he was in flight, it was declared illegal by RBI, right? And finally he was arrested when he landed on the airport, right? And then the court said that the lordship held that there was no scope for the invocation of the doctrine of mens rea in this particular case. The very object and the purpose of the act would be frustrated if the accused should be proved to have knowledge of that he was contravening the law, right? So he said that in the strict liability offences can be waived, right? But Justice Subbarao differed with it, right? I will ask you to read Justice Subbarao's opinion, what argument he gave, because there was a specific question, what is the Justice Subbarao's opinion, minority opinion in the case of strict liability offences, not having a mens rea. Okay, so that is very, very important, that you need to study actually. Understand that particular point. Okay, so please keep that in mind. Now the next is the capital punishment. Now Law Commission says that there are these six way or purpose of the capital punishment, right? Act as a deterrence, retribution, disabling. If a person is killed, he is no longer of killing someone else. Okay, avoiding of lynching. Okay, right? So this is sort of a collective vengeance that a state takes on the behalf of society, right? So that the society will not go and lynch him. Okay, so that is one of the argument. And disapprobation by the public, right? So public will sort of disapprobate it, saying that okay, he have done something wrong and he is rightly killed. And the atonement, right? So if you have committed some evil, right, so it is sort of a God punishment, right? So you are atoning yourself for the crime, right? Now there are multiple arguments against him as well, against the capital punishment as well, right? Like for the best example is that you are killing a person to justify that killing is bad. So don't you think it is a sort of a contradictory statement, right? You're killing someone to justify that what you are doing is bad, right? So I am doing something to justify that if you do the same thing, that is bad, right? So that is a sort of a contradiction in itself, right? So that is the counter argument. Then judicial approach, Bachchan Singh first, right? Aggravating and mitigating circumstances. We will pinpoint aggravating and mitigating circumstances, right? That suppose by an example you will understand that, right? That suppose X has happened, right? So what is the mitigating, right? So mitigating means what could have led this crime not happening, and aggravating means what have led to further happening of this crime, right? So we will have a perfect balance, right? And when it tilted towards aggravating, then obviously the crime is more dangerous, right? and you will be giving the death punishment, right? Now the question actually here is that what is aggravating and what is mitigating circumstances. That itself is a lot of debate, right? Let's suppose a rape has occurred of a child and it was a night time and child was going outside, right? So the child was unaccompanied in the night, whether it will be a mitigating or aggravating circumstance. Now if you will say it is an aggravating circumstance, right, then you are, you can be said that you do not want women should have a freedom. Okay, right? So there is a lot of debate between what is aggravating and what is mitigating, right? What court can help, because it is subjective actually, right? Now subsequent cases varying interpretation of Bachchan Singh. It happened after 3 years after this Machi Singh case happened, right? After 3 years of this Bachchan Singh, Machi Singh, after 3 years of Bachchan Singh, right? And they said that no, mitigating and aggravating, you leave it, you look at the crime itself and see the circumstances, nature and manner and the motive of the crime. Understand, right? So if you take these things, right, and then it seems that it is something, a person is totally depraved, he is incapable of being transformed, right, then you should give the death punishment, right? So go into detail of it, right, because there have been questions, rarest doctrine is very subjective in nature, full stop comment, simple question, right? So you have to go into detail and you have to pinpoint that why it is very subjective in nature. Understand that particular point? Okay, so you go through these two. Now let us come to some previous year paper, so that we should be able to identify. If you look at the previous year paper, quantum of criminal liability law takes into account motive, magnitude and character of offender. Very simple cases, right? Constituent of crime, discuss mens rea with relevant cases. How simple? These are the cases, a ready-made answer can be made of it, right? Although the requirement of mens rea is general throughout the criminal law, there are numerous exceptions, right? Explain it. Multiple exceptions that I have already given in the notes itself, but study more. Discuss the relevance of mens rea and criminal law. Also explain the role of mens rea and statutory offence. Now, don't you think these two questions are almost 60% similar? At least the content of 60% answer will be same, right? So it is almost sort of a similar question, these two. Okay. Then proof of existence is essential for a guilty intent of an essential element of the that is your mens rea, as well as the actus reus is also an essential element. Okay, so that is the one point that you have to cover here. Again, quite simple. Intention and the act both must concur to constitute a crime. It means we are talking about mens rea and actus reus must be there in the case of crime. But here you have to little bit write about also the difference between intention and motive. Okay. And then crime are the wrong whose sanctions is punitive and in no other way remissible by private person, but it is remissible by the crown alone. It means you are basically talking about crime as a wrong against society. So it is a philosophical question in which they want to ask you crime as a wrong against society, right? So for the next class, that is on Wednesday, I will be asking you to write question number 7 itself. Okay, so note that down in your notebook or whatever, right? This question number 7, it was asked I think in 2017. I might be wrong, you see it once, right? But it was asked in 2017. Okay, so go ahead and write it down. Okay, now today I do not have any copy to check, right? So from the next class, if you submit me, I will check at least one copy so that you will be able to understand that how to write those answers. Okay, understand that particular point, right? I have here some copies as well. I think this is one of the copy of my law optional student, right? In that also weekly I give 4-5 questions, right? See here, he have written one question, right? That is the same question itself. What is the constituent of the crime? Liability, discuss mens rea with relevant case law. Now generally speaking, there are 4 stages of crime. Okay, constituents of the crime, human being. See, human being is also constituent, but the major constituent I have told you 2, right? But obviously he have written it, right? So he should have not written it so much, right? So the comment will be ki shorten it. Okay, main is the mens rea. Yes, state of mind, very good. Actus reus, but he should have mentioned the common law principle. Okay, mention common law principle. Okay, and then write ki from it deduces ki there are 2 major elements. Okay, that should have been written. Facet mens rea, crime actus reus, correct. Injury again, obviously it is an ingredient of crime, but not the main essential ingredient. Then he goes into detail, right? So what he should have done, he should have written at least one line only, right? He should have in a very shorter manner, and then he have to write that okay, these are the 2 essential elements, and then describe it. Okay, so you have described. See here, he have written here. Okay, so he could have written there in the beginning. Okay, so but that is correct also, he have at least mentioned. Does not involve one guilty. Good. Yes, right. He could have written fraudulently also, right? So here other words in IPC which identify mens rea should be mentioned. Okay, you have taken only 2 words, that is your intention and motive. Good case. Knowledge. Okay, aware of the knowledge is something which is it is a part and parcel of intention and motive itself. Okay, in fact knowledge of a particular act sometimes leads to the meaning of dishonesty and fraudulently also, negligence also. Burning of newspaper. Okay, yes, recklessness, that is again another word in IPC that give a hint about mens rea. Very correct. Good. Achha, negligence also you have written. Very good. Okay, so it means you have attended the lecture properly. Okay, dishonestly you have also written. Very good. Fraud itself is not fraud by default, comes from the definition of dishonestly, so not needed. It is emperor versus Dhiraji, I suppose. Okay. Okay, so you have written, great deal, right? So out of, if it is a 10 marker question, 20 marker question, so I will definitely give him around 12 11 marks. Little bit more improvement, he could have got 15. Understand, right? So one question I have checked, but this is again copy not submitted by you. This is one of the law optional student copy, right? So tomorrow you write that particular question number 7, and you submit it to me. Okay, understand that particular point? Yeah. Now I will take some questions if you have any. Please go ahead, ask your questions. Yeah, no one? You can raise your hand and I will unmute you, and then you can ask your questions. Okay, then I suppose no question for today. Chaliye, so let us wind it up. Okay, and Wednesday again, same timing we will assemble here. Okay, and we will further study about it. Okay, done. Chaliye then. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone. Thank you very much.